It's what is it? Friendsgiving, November 27th. I think that's it. Yeah. Welcome to MBRR Pod, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment Podcast. I'm TC, and you are you, whoever you might be. And this is a drive time dialectic. When was hello, Nikki. Everybody else who's currently tuning in, you guys know the spiel. I go through all of this stuff at the very front end of it because that's how I do. And yeah. So while I'm waiting for people to tune in, for the alerts to go out, and everybody to pop on in, make sure you say hi, hit the like button, that big old thumbs up, hit that, and while you're at it, share it out. Find that button down below that says, hey Snarky, find the button down below that says join, and you can become a member of the channel. I'd be very thankful for that. I gotta check to see. I got a turkey from work. I'm stopped right now. Don't panic. I can't remember where I put the turkey. Oh well, might have left it sitting outside. Who knows? Yeah. Join channel memberships. Very, very helpful, and very thankful for all of the channel members. Thankful to iMath from over on Subscribestar for being a show producer, and I have an anonymous show producer as well, who's gifted the channel in an incredibly generous way over the last few weeks, and as well as Tav, the Angry Vet, who's given to the channel in so many ways through gift memberships and the like. So thankful for that. This is not my Thanksgiving stream. I don't know that I'm going to actually do a Thanksgiving stream per se, but I'm thankful for everybody that's part of the channel. I'm thankful for all the support. And if you like the content, I appreciate that. I appreciate feedback as it regards that. And I even appreciate pushback. And would gladly engage with somebody who wants to give pushback if they're coming at it from in good faith. So feel free to engage that way as well. If some of you aren't aware, 2 weeks ago today, Mrs. Minnesota, Mrs. TC, had a pretty severe heart attack. I don't know if there is such a thing as a not severe heart attack. Howdy, STD. But yeah, Mrs. TC had a pretty severe heart attack, and she came home last Tuesday, so just a week ago, and it's, we're not as far out of the woods as I thought we would be based on some of what they were saying. Lots of follow-up appointments coming, lots of treatment and therapy type things. She had a SCAD, so spontaneous cardiac arterial dissection, so it was a little tear. She might be taking part in a clinic study on those because there's very little known about them. And the Wilburns, good friends of the channel, good supporters, they started a Give, Send, Go, and have several links to that here in the description of the video, and also in the community notes, or in the community section where the posts are. And, yeah, Snarky, I'm very, very thankful that I was home that day. You nailed it. It was a was a very traumatic day, and I'm glad that I was there, and I'm glad to have this holiday with her. So she's doing better. Mercedes, thanks for asking. But we've got a lot of we got an uphill fight ahead of us, and I'm thankful for everybody that's asked. I'm thankful for people who've reached out with their support. I'm thankful for all the donations. The target goal of money we're raising for the Give Send Go has been raised, just because we don't know what the bills are going to be like. The ambulance ride alone is going to be in the thousands of dollars. I've already been warned, even for a small town. So Mercedes, you don't have to explain any kind of support. Prayer, thoughts, caring comments, all of that stuff is all it's all important. It's all important. Some people can give financially, and others can give through prayer and encouragement. And we are thankful for all of it. And to be quite honest, I have been sharing daily with her the people who have reached out, who ask questions when I'm in other people's streams, and who ask questions on the during videos and during live streams, who are asking and inquiring after her. And to be honest with you, she has been very for the last 4 years since the inception of the channel, I have been very intentional about not including my family in especially by name, in what I do. And that intentionality is not for a lack of care and concern for my family, but is particularly because of care and concern for my family. When you do what I do, when you talk about the things that I talk about, when you piss off the powers that be, if you will, you make a lot of enemies. And a lot of the enemies that you make are statists. I was messaging with Matt Thornton. If you guys don't know who Detective Matt Thornton is, he's got a pretty big following here on YouTube, and they have come after him big time. The people in the blue line, the thick blue wall, people hate him. And because he calls out the unconstitutional behavior and the oath breaking that takes place in law enforcement, and they're coming after him, like Snarky said, armed enemies with badges. Hello, Jen Thunder, good to see you. Well, it's good for you to be here. I can't see you, but armed enemies with badges, and they're. And even the supporters of the thick wall, who aren't in the career field, will turn on you. They will attack you, and they don't have any compunctions. I've got a video I'm going to be putting up over this weekend. I've got some shorts from it out there, but I'm going to put up the whole video. And where I get into it pretty heatedly with a very volatile bootlicker, when I call out a state patrol trooper sergeant for parking in a no parking zone, and this guy jumps all over me and actually threatens to physically assault me over calling out state trooper. So yeah, I have been very intentional about not sharing my personal details, family-wise, with a lot of people. And that all changed 2 weeks ago today. Because once again, when you do what I do, I was in the Wilburns when Georgie was streaming earlier today, just chatting and doing some shout outs to people. I was in the chat, and she was mentioning the Combat from TikTok and the work that he does, and his design work that he does to support vets and others. And she was talking about how high energy he is, and I said, just damn extroverts. And a lot of people think that when you do what I do, whether it be speaking in public, confronting, oath-breaking law enforcement and other public servants, when you have a channel, they assume you're an extrovert, that you just love to do this. And I enjoy this, but I'm not an extrovert. I'm actually rather introverted. I am very much, I'd much rather be home alone. I mean, these days. But I would much rather not be out in public. And interacting with people, especially in public, confrontations or even positive interactions sometimes will just, it takes a lot out of me energy-wise. And so all of this, the support that I've gotten over the last 2 weeks has been very important to me, because I don't have a big group of people in my life that I know personally, that I see every day, that are, there in a way of dropping what they're doing and coming 2, 3, 4 blocks, or even maybe 5, 10 miles across, town or across the county to step in and be supportive of me personally, in person, in the physical reality. And thank you, sir. Snarky is referring to when we first met face to face the very first time down in Waterloo, Iowa. And that's a really good example of that day. And my Waterloo content is up if you guys wanted to see my interactions with Blackhawk County Sheriff's Office staff and the Waterloo, Iowa City Council meeting. But that day took all of my energy, and the hour and a half drive home was I'm like, I just need to get home. I need to get to bed. I need to get to home and eat, and I need to get some rest, because it just took everything out of me. When I reached out to a couple of people, Skipper from Better Nation, my co-host over at Better Nation, when I reached out to him and said, hey, Mrs. TC's had a heart attack and things are going to be rough, Skipper put the word out, and man, you stepped up. And there again, I don't mean just the give, send, go. Obviously, if you can help, hey Roadhog, hey Teresa, if you guys can help through the give, send, go, I am not going to be the person to tell you not to. I'm a typical vet. I don't ask for help easy, but all of the help, the give, send, go, the messaging me, sending me an email, asking me how I'm doing or what I need, that kind of stuff, it's all very much appreciated. You guys don't know how much it means to me. And I've been rambling now for 15 minutes, so I needed to get that out. wanted you guys to know that. And I'm never going to forget it, because I'm never going to be able to pay you all back for all your kindness. But it has meant the absolute world to me to see the self-sacrificial ways that you guys have all stepped up to help in your own ways. It's been truly uplifting and magnificent. So it's in the description of the video clap. So thanks. Let's talk a little bit about Pam. Some of you have been watching my videos about Justice for Pam. So I ran Pam through the ringer today. I made her answer a lot of questions because I wanted to make sure, hey AVA, you'll have to go back and watch the beginning so you can hear my emotional diatribe. But if you've been paying attention to the story I've been telling about Pam and the attack that she suffered at the hands of I don't know how to say it, but at the hands of a malicious state. Go to the Justice for Pam playlist. Watch that. Watch the Justice for Marcy playlist as well. But if you go to the Justice for Pam playlist and just watch the first 3 videos that I've done, it's demonstrable how absolutely terrible she was treated by agents of the state. It's disgusting. Unlawful warrantless entry into her home by law enforcement and child protective services based on what we now, and you guys know this, were demonstrably untrue comments. I have all of the data. I have a researcher who, by the way, is bar none the best that there is. Bar none. My researcher is like a bloodhound. When I give this individual a task, like, I need you to work on this, I need you to pull strings on this sweater and unravel it for me and tell me if approaching this story is worth my time, they come back to me and will tell me, yeah, we've got something here, bear with me while I work on it, or there's nothing here and I don't think it's, you cover it if you want to, but it might not help the cause. And man, when they get on a trail, it's over. I'm like, we're digging up stuff on Stinson, this county attorney, Wabasha County Attorney Matt Stinson, like thread after thread after thread after thread after thread of just questionable involvement. So definitely go and watch Marcy's story and watch Pam's playlist. But the reason I'm bringing this up, and I want it to kind of steep between now and Monday when I do the next video regarding Pam's fight for justice, is the chief of police of Plainview, Minnesota, sent 2 officers along with 3 county welfare, social services, welfare, child protective services people out to shut down Pam's daycare based on these false allegations. And in an email, when Pam asked him why they were there, he said that it's common practice for CPS to request the assistance of law enforcement for their protection, and that they go along in the capacity of law enforcement to act as investigators, and I'm paraphrasing the email, that they were definitely there to investigate potential criminal activity. He says this in an email. And we know for a fact that he referred charges against Pam to the county attorney, Matt Stinson, because, as you could see in the thumbnail of this video, Matt Stinson tells Chief Tim of the Plainview Police Department that he's declining to press charges, to pursue prosecution of the charges at this time. Now, we know that these Child Protective Service agents, these, I was going to say mean words about them, these witches did manage to take Pam's livelihood from her, to take her business from her. And Pam's been hearing from people within the Minnesota's Department of, I think it's Health and Human Services or something. I don't know. Like, there's so many agencies in the state of Minnesota. But her licensor, her former licensor, does not understand how they managed to take her license from her. I have looked at court documents today from my researcher and from Pam, where administrative law judges rejected the testimony of the juvenile complainant who reported to her mother, who then made the call. Rejected the testimony of the complainant based on the fact that it was just unbelievable. And when I mean unbelievable, not like, oh my gosh, that really happened, but like the testimony was called into question because it was clear the testimony was false. This is what the judge said. And Chief of Police Tim of the Plainview Police Department still tried to press charges on Pam. Still tried to have her charged with the crime. Stinson just declined to prosecute these, and we're now being told this is all closed. But guess what? They refuse to tell Pam what she's being charged with. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if somebody is going to try and charge you with a crime, that's them swearing that they believe that they have the evidence to prove the guilt of the individual, and they want the attorneys, the prosecutors in this case, to move forward with that. And those charges were declined. Now this opens up a whole ton of questions. It actually opens up a lot of stuff. So what those of you that are part of the accountability activism community, who go out and do First Amendment auditing or Second Amendment auditing, or just go out and shoot video in public and wait for responses, which I bar none one of the best activities that anybody can take part in, as long as you're conducting yourself in a good way. I don't know if people are still chatting. My chat's not responding, so if you're asking questions or whatever, I can't tell. So I hope you guys can all hear me still. But what we do know is when charges are pressed against an individual and it's in violation of their constitutionally enshrined natural rights, a lot of times, if the prosecutor knows that the cops overstepped, they will not drop the charges, because as long as those charges are out there, it allows for prosecution to proceed. It also allows for that person to be wrapped up in the criminal courts for a longer period of time. And the longer they're wrapped up in that, the narrower and narrower and narrower the window gets for civil litigation against the officers for violation of a person's constitutional or civil rights, however you want to say it. It really, really makes it difficult. So what ends up happening is they keep those charges out there. So like in the case of Christopher Flatton and the Wilmer Police Department and Derek Gilbert from 2 years ago, when they assaulted him, used excessive force, they kept the charges on him for over 6 months before they finally dropped those charges. And because he wasn't going to take a plea deal. And they knew they couldn't convict him because he hadn't done anything wrong. That it was all the fault of law enforcement. Literally the fault of law enforcement. Law enforcement was completely wrong. And now we know that there was a $50,000 settlement offered to Derek. He took it, and we may never know the entirety of the guilt, but we do know that it appears that the chief of police of Wilmer was kind of forced out of office. How does this tie into what we're talking about with Pam? Like, as long as they can, because it helps prevent civil litigation, because a lot of times you're not going to get any civil litigation. You're certainly not going to get any resolution on civil litigation until the criminal activity is addressed. And whether or not there's a plea deal, or whether or not it's a conviction, whether or not there's standing. And so prosecutors will often defend cops without ever actually defending them by keeping charges in place. So like in the case of Derek, they ended up dropping the charges, which opened up a better possibility for civil litigation against Flatton and Wilmer PD and the city of Wilmer and anybody else involved. Now, we're seeing play out in the case of 1A and 2A auditors all the time. But what about Pam? So Pam went into this just normal, everyday daycare operator, minding her own business. Up until all of this, she was big, back the blue, really loved the cops and all of that. And as you watch those videos from Justice for Pam playlist, you could see just how egregious the abuse of her constitutionally enshrined natural rights were. From the entry into the house, to the questioning of her minor child, to basically forced ID of her minor child and other people there, even though there was no reasonable, articulable suspicion that they had taken part in any crime. And even the attempt by what I now affectionately refer to him as Officer Sissy, who was too dumb to open a child gate, but clearly smart enough to have a badge and a pew-pew. They, I guess for lack of better terminology, Officer Sissy and others were doing their level best to even try and bring charges against Pam and her family for having a tegu lizard in Minnesota. They were trying to come up with some way to prove that lizard was illegal. And we fast forward to the chief of police bringing charges that we don't know. We do not know at this time, this day, 2 years later, what they were trying to charge her with. We still have no idea. No idea what they were trying to charge her with. And Stinson dropped the charges. He just refused to prosecute. Now, I say, when I think about it, one, I think Chief Tim of the Plainview Police Department forwarded the charges for prosecution to Stinson to tie Pam up in the legal process to keep his officers protected for their unconstitutional activities that day. Now, I guarantee you, when Tim sees this video, and he will, because I know how my audience works, I know that Chief Tim of the Plainview Police Department, and contact information for him is in the video, other videos I have of Pam, and will be in the description of this video. I just forgot to add it in earlier. I know that people will make sure he sees this. And I know that when he does see this, he will say to himself, one, I wish I could get my hands on that TC guy. Two, he'll say, my officers did not violate the Constitution. They weren't there to conduct a criminal investigation. The problem is we have him on the record telling Pam that his officers were there to conduct a criminal investigation. We have that on the record. And therefore, because we have that on the record, he cannot deny that her constitutional rights were violated. His officers violated her constitutional rights, and I believe that Tim forwarded charges to Stinson to try and keep the constitutional issue under wraps until such a time that it ran its course and Pam was out of options and could not bring civil litigation. And quite frankly, in defense of Pam, she doesn't understand this system. Pam will tell you, Marcy will tell you, I asked a ton of questions. But very much today, I made it very clear to Pam that some of the problems she was facing were because of how she was addressing her emails for data requests. And they ran her in circles. Because that's what they do. See, Chief Tim's not a dummy. I flat out tell you, like, I'll call out a dumb cop when I see a dumb cop, but not every cop is dumb. Not every bad cop is a dumb cop. Some of the smartest people you will ever meet are bad cops. And that's what makes them so cotton-picking dangerous, is their level of intelligence. Bad cops become exponentially more dangerous to you, your rights, your freedoms, and your liberties when they're intelligent. And I think that Chief Tim of the Plainview Police Department is a bad cop who's very intelligent, and he knows how to play the game, and he knew that Pam didn't know how to play the game, that Pam didn't know how the system worked. So when Pam addressed an email request for data to the Chief of Police of Plainview, Chief Tim, and to a County Attorney, Matt Stinson, in the same email, his response to her was, you have to send separate emails to us. Because she didn't know better. So instead of actually honoring her data request, he said that basically, until you send me the right request, I'm not going to honor your request. And so we have him then talking out of both sides of his mouth, because in one email he says his officers were there to take part in a criminal investigation, and then in another email he says they weren't there to take part in a criminal investigation. But they weren't there to take part in a criminal investigation, but then he had an investigator talk to Pam's employee, Bobby, as part of a criminal investigation. Then they were going to bring charges against Pam. So the entire process was fruit of the poisonous tree, because his officers initially showed up to conduct an investigation without a warrant. Lacking exigent circumstances, they had no right to enter that home and take part in any kind of criminal investigation. Yet they did it anyway. So Tim had to bring charges against her. He had to absolutely bring charges against her to prove that he was doing the right thing. And when Stinson chose to drop the charges, or not prosecute the charges, more cover-up had to take place. And now, according to Pam, no matter how many times she's asked for all the information regarding her, they have refused to release it. To this day, he has flat out refused to acknowledge that he tried to have her charged with the crime. He refuses to tell her what the potential charges were. And so now that makes me wonder, and this is not meant to scare Pam if she watches this, that makes me wonder the severity of the charges. Because the statute of limitations on felony charges versus gross misdemeanor charges or misdemeanor charges or petty misdemeanor charges in the state of Minnesota are far different. So if he was just bringing misdemeanor or gross misdemeanor charges against Pam, the statute of limitations is more than likely up on that for him. More than likely, Chief Tim can't charge her anymore. That the potential crimes can't be charged, even if they have evidence. But if he was trying to charge her with a felony, then what do we know? If it's a felony, and this all took place in 2022, he could just be biding his time, waiting to bring those charges back to the county attorney, or the county attorney could be sitting on them waiting for an opportune time in his book. Because Stinson's email, as you can see in the thumbnail, to Chief Tim says, "I am declining to press charges on this matter at this time." And I'm probably getting the wording somewhat wrong. But regardless, as the suspect, as the subject of the investigation, at this point, Pam has every right to know what they were trying to charge her with. Pam has every right to that information, and she has every right to disseminate that information as she sees fit. And they are standing in her way. They will not tell her what those charges were, what they were trying to charge her with. Stinson won't answer, and Tim won't answer. And I need your guys' help. Not just for me and Mrs. TC, by the way. I need you guys to help me help Pam get that information. We need pressure on Matt Stinson to release not only why he chose not to charge, but what the potential charges were. And we need pressure on Chief Tim of the Plainview Police Department to release that information. We have to bring so much public attention to him, civil, polite, professional. But we need excuse me. Well, that might not be a bad idea either for all these law-breaking oath takers, law-breaking oath breakers. But we need pressure brought to bear on Chief Tim of the Plainview Police Department, Plainview, Minnesota. They have a website. And to pressure brought to bear on Matt Stinson from all of you incredibly intelligent people. Because this stuff, none of this changes, none of this stops if it's got to be Pam's and Marcy's of the world fighting this on their own. None of this changes. Like the reason why I reached out to Skipper and told him about what happened to Mrs. TC is because I knew that this group, these people that I surround myself with out here in the ether sphere, I knew you guys would step up and offer prayers and support. I had no idea that the Wilburns were going to step up and start a Give, Send, Go. But this is how our community works. This is how we work. Because we understand we're not in this alone. We understand that this is not just us fighting, that we're all fighting this together, that we're all in on this, that this is all part and parcel of what it means to be a patriot and an American in this United States. So I need you guys, right now, I need you guys over the next few days to start applying pressure to Chief Tim to get that data to Pam. And then, once we get that data to Pam, then we could find out what they were really trying to do to her. Because truth matters. Because justice for Pam is far more important than protecting a corrupt government ever will be. So I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. I appreciate all your support, all your prayers, all your words of encouragement. I appreciate every single contribution, every donation, every single person who watches, who shares, who likes, who comments, who asks questions. And if you can do, anything for the Give, Send, Go to help, because this is really for Mrs. TC. She is an emotional wreck right now, over wondering what she's going to do to replace her lost income. So, if you can help, great. And if you can't, completely fine too. And we will take your prayers. And I cannot thank those of you who've reached out in all your ways enough. And if you guys would go over to Detective Matt Thornton's, go to the Wilburns page. If you aren't there yet, go to their site and subscribe, by the way, as well. Subscribe to each other. And if you would, please go over to Detective Matt Thornton, subscribe to his channel, and tell him thank you, because he shared the Give, Send, Go out to his community today as well. So I'm going to run a couple more errands, and Mrs. TC and our adult son are going to walk down to the local tavern and have a burger. We're going to have a cheat day from our keto. We're going to go down and have a burger and a drink together and enjoy each other's company. And somebody gave us a little bit of money and told us to enjoy each other's company tonight. So that's why we're doing that. And I'm going to do that. Because every day I have with her now is borrowed. It's absolutely borrowed. And I'm never giving that up. Not for anything. So until next time, have a great Thanksgiving. Look for a special Freedom Flock Thanksgiving stream pretty much all day tomorrow. With the new cameras that I got. And until next time, my friends, fight for your freedom, it is yours. Fight for your liberty, it belongs to you. I love you guys. Sic Semper Tyrannis.